We're going to be looking at Jonah chapter 1, verses 4, 5, and 6. So we'll begin down here at verse 4. Let me read that. Va'adonai hitil ruach gedolah el hayam, vayehi sa'ar gadol bayam, v'ha'onya hishava lehishaver. Okay, so we begin here. Vadonai, just as and the Lord. Hetil, this is a hifil. Our verb is tool, and in the hifil it means to hurl, to throw down. And so we have Yahweh hurled, Ruach Gedolah. So we have a wind, in this case, could be wind or spirit, or even breath, but here it's pretty clearly that God hurled something down. It would be a wind. And we have Gedolah, and it's a feminine adjective that goes with the feminine noun, Ruach. And the Lord hurled a great wind, El Hayam, upon the sea. Literally to the sea. We would translate it on or upon the sea. Vayehi Sa'ar Gadol. We could say this, and it was. Sa'ar is a tempest or a gale, and it was a great tempest. And we might say that, and there was a great tempest. We could also, since this is a 3ms, and because Sa'ar is masculine, we might say, and a great tempest was bayam, in the sea. So we could say either, and there was a great tempest in the sea or on the sea, or a great tempest was on the sea. Then the last part of the verse, V'ha'onya, here we have, and the ship. Notice here that we have the first vowel is a half vowel. It's a hatef kametz hatu, a half short O. But up here, in verse 3, we have the same word, but notice that the first vowel here looks like a long A, and not a half vowel at all. If we come down and look at the editor's note, notice down here, we have chapter 1, verse 3, down here, and it says, so, that's what sick means, Leningrad. So the Leningrad Codex has the alternate reading with the long A. Then it says here, multiple manuscripts and editions have the half O, the half vowel. And so it looks like there's some dispute about the correct reading in verse 3. So we'll come back up now to verse 4. This is just to point out that every once in a while, the Masoretic text has a vocal pointing that may be disputed. There may be some doubt about. This is very rare, and usually when it does happen, there's no doubt about the meaning. This is still Onya, it's still a ship. Returning here, the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a great tempest on the sea, literally in the sea, we'd say on the sea. And then down at the beginning of the next line, and the ship, and then we have hishva. This comes from the root chashav, which normally means to think or to plan. In the piel, it can, if it's mixed with an infinitive, if it's followed by an infinitive, it can mean to be about to. And so here, the ship, hishva, was about, and then we have lehishaver. The infinitive here is a nifal. Notice the doubled R1 and the comets under R1 and the hey with a heric prefix. And so we have hishaver. This is a nifal infinitive construct of shavar, to break. So this would be to be broken. And the ship was about to be broken or broken up or destroyed. And so this great wind came down, the ship was about to be destroyed. Let's look at verse 5. Vayira'u hamalachim vayizaku ish el Elohaiv vayatalu et hakelim esher bo'onya el hayam lehakel me elehem vayona yarad el yarkate hasfina vayishkav vayeradam. Okay, that's verse 5. So we have vayira'u. Because we have a vav, patak, and a doubled prefix, we know this is a vav consecutive. And so already we know this is a vav consecutive imperfect. The yod prefix letter tells us it's third masculine, and the u ending tells us it's third masculine plural. And this matches with ha malachim. This would be the sailors. The word melach means salt, and so this is related to that. The salt ones are referred to sailors, and that's very similar to the way we do it in English. We refer to a sailor as an old salt. Okay, so the sailors, from the root yara, the sailors were afraid. Vayiz achu, notice we have, again, a vav consecutive imperfect, and the yod prefix, the shurik ending, telling us that again it's a third masculine plural. And with both of these verbs, the hirik prefix vowel and the shwa under R1 tells us we're looking at kal. And za'ak is to cry out. So, and they cried out. Each, this would be normally a man, but it can also mean each. So they cried out, each El Elohaiv, to his God. This would be little g God. Each to his God. Coming down to the next line then. Vayatilu, notice that we saw the same root, tul, in the previous verse. Here we have vayatilu, and again this is a hiphil. We will discuss this type of verb later in the semester, but just take it for right now that this is a hiphil. And we can tell it's an imperfect because of the vav consecutive imperfect, the patak under the vav, and the doubled first prefix letter. So we have vayatilu. We know it's a imperfect third masculine plural. And they threw hakelim, the vessels, meaning the stuff, the baggage. They threw the vessels, esher bo'onya. Notice this is a short O because it's matching the half vowel under the aleph here. Esher bo'onya, which were in the ship. We have to supply a were, which were in the ship, el hayam, to the sea or into the sea. And then we have lehakel. This is a hiphil infinitive construct, and we haven't seen that type of verb yet, but it comes from the root kalal, to make light, to lighten. And so the idea was they threw it to lighten from upon them, from on them, or to lighten from them, to lighten their load, in other words. The atnach here is telling us that we have a pause, a hard pause. And then vayona, and we might even take this vav as but, vayona, yarad. We know this is just a kal perfect, third masculine singular of yarad. We could translate it, but Jonah went down. We might do this as our pluperfect idea, as had gone down. The kal perfect can be used this way also, in kind of the more pluperfect idea. But Jonah had gone down, next line here, el yarkate, to the innards, to the hold, hasafina, of the ship, to the hold of the ship. Vayishkav, and he lay down. Just again a kal imperfect vav consecutive, 3ms, and he laid down. Vayeradam. It's a nifal, and it is a one guttural. Let's take a look at it over here. It's one of our one gutturals. Notice that the prefix has a seri underneath it, and the first letter here is a resh, which acts like a guttural here, and then we have the comets underneath the R1 letter. So we suspect that this was a heroic, but it was lengthened, because normally a nifal imperfect has a doubled first letter, but in this case the resh rejects the doubling, and that causes the vowel behind it to lengthen. So we have ye radam. So this is a one guttural. It is a nice nifal imperfect 3ms. And he slept deeply. He fell into a deep sleep is the idea. Okay, that's verses 4 and 5. Let's translate them both together. And the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a great tempest in the sea, or on the sea, and the ship was about to be broken up, or about to be destroyed. And the sailors feared, and they cried out each to his god, and they hurled the vessels which were in the ship into the sea, to lighten from them, or to lighten it, we supply the it from them. But Jonah had gone down to the hold of the ship, and he lay down and he slept deeply.